Anthony Davis was sitting in bed, watching a movie with his wife, when his career flipped inside out. He got traded for Luka Doncic, and he's the one who guessed it before anyone even told him. So the full story of how this trade went down, what AD said on the Draymond Green show, and the fallout that followed is one of the wildest chapters in NBA history. The Luka Doncic trade turned the NBA upside down in February 2025, and Anthony Davis was right in the middle of it. He was watching a movie when it happened, and he had no idea it was coming. He finally told the full story on the Draymond Green show on YouTube. Davis was in bed watching a movie with his wife when Los Angeles Lakers general manager Rob Pelinka called. He let it go. Pelinka then texted him saying, "AD, when you get a chance to call me back, me and coach got something to run by you." Davis figured he would deal with it the next day. No rush, no alarm bells. Rich Paul tried calling too. Davis missed it. Rich ended up calling Davis's wife and asking her to tell him to call back. That is when things started moving fast. Before this night, Davis had talked with Rich Paul about Luka Doncic on multiple occasions. Not in any trade context. Just two people casually admiring a player. Davis used to say, "Imagine me with Luka. That would be crazy." At the time, he didn't know what LeBron James was going to do, play, or retire. He wasn't thinking about being traded. He was just thinking about the future. Luka was the closest thing to LeBron in terms of size, passing, scoring. So when Rich Paul told him the news, Davis's brain immediately went to the one player on Dallas's roster worth trading for a 10-time All-Star. When Rich said Dallas, AD responded with, "Get the FK out of here. Who are they trading me for, Luka?" Rich said, "They traded you for Luka." Ad replied, "Rich, shut the hell up." He genuinely believed it was a prank. Rich Paul and Nico Harrison knew each other. So Davis thought Rich and Nico were cool, and they were just playing a joke. Like, y'all playing a joke. This is getting real. Then Nico Harrison called Davis directly. Nico said, "I told you I was going to come get you one day. I wanted you." Davis was still thinking it was a joke. He told Nico he'd call him back. Then he called Rob Pelinka back. Pelinka told him everything. Basically, he got traded for Luka. But even after hearing it from his agent, from the Dallas GM, and from the Lakers GM, Davis still didn't fully believe it. He went on X, went straight to Shams Charania's page. Nothing. He went upstairs. Joel Embiid called him. Somebody else called him another player. And then he went back to Shams's page, and there it was. Davis said his heart was in his stomach after all that, and said he was in shock over it all. That is the phone call that changed everything. One of the most surreal nights in NBA history. A 10-time All-Star finding out he was being sent to Dallas in exchange for a generational talent. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to how Luka Doncic became the most valuable asset in Dallas, and why the Mavericks decided to move him. At the age of 19, Luka Doncic was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks 3rd overall in the 2018 NBA draft, as the most hyped European prospect in NBA history. In a draft night trade, he was dealt to the Dallas Mavericks for the 5th overall pick, Trae Young, and a protected 2019 first-round pick that was later used to draft Cam Reddish 10th overall. When he joined the NBA, he was one of the most coveted prospects in basketball due to his accomplishments at Real Madrid, where he was the 2017-18 EuroLeague MVP and led his team to the EuroLeague title. He was 18 years old, playing against grown men in the toughest basketball league outside the NBA and winning. Doncic's arrival was seen as the beginning of a new era for the Mavericks, as the illustrious career of team legend Dirk Nowitzki was coming to a close. Nowitzki played one season with Doncic before retiring in 2019. Doncic quickly became the face of the franchise, winning the 2018-19 NBA Rookie of the Year award. His rookie season numbers told the story on their own. Doncic averaged 21.2 points, 6 assists, and 7.8 rebounds per game. He also had 7 triple-doubles and was a near-unanimous choice for Rookie of the Year, receiving 98 of 100 first-place votes. What followed was a breathtaking escalation. Every single season, Doncic got more dominant, more polished, more impossible to contain. During his 6.5 seasons with Dallas, he made the All-NBA First Team 5 times and the NBA All-Star Team 5 times. He became the first player in NBA history to make 5 All-NBA First Teams through age 24. He is the Mavericks franchise leader in career triple-doubles and holds the record for most points in a Mavericks season and highest scoring game. 73 points. That 73-point game, which came against the Atlanta Hawks in January 2024, was a showcase of everything that made Doncic otherworldly. That explosion set a franchise record and was tied for the fourth most points scored in an NBA game. Wilt Chamberlain at 100, Kobe Bryant at 81, Devin Booker at 70, and then Luka at 25 years old. In 2021 to 22, he averaged 28.4 points, 9.1 rebounds, and 8.7 assists, and led the team to the Western Conference Finals in the postseason. However, the Mavericks lost in 5 games to the Golden State Warriors. 2 years later, he went even further. He led Dallas to the 2024 NBA Finals, cementing his place among the game's elite. Backed by his strong play, the Mavericks went 50-32 in the regular season and advanced to the finals. However, Dallas lost to the Boston Celtics in 5 games. Even in that finals loss, the individual performances were staggering. In Game 1 against the Celtics, Doncic scored 30 points and grabbed 10 rebounds. He became the first player since Tim Duncan in 1999 to record a 30-point double-double in his first finals game. In Game 2, he became the first player in Dallas franchise history to record a triple-double in a finals game, finishing with 32 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists, and 4 steals. This was not a fringe star on a mediocre roster. This was a player who had carried an entire franchise on his back to the NBA Finals. Luka Doncic averaged 28.6 points per game in his career. That is the highest career average for a player at the time he was traded since 1975, when the Bucks dealt Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to the Lakers. And that is exactly why what happened next was so seismic, because the Mavericks traded him anyway. The morning the trade news dropped, the basketball world was staring at their phones in disbelief. When Shams Charania hit send at 12:12 a.m. ET on February 2, 2025, his hands were trembling. The ESPN insider had just typed out what would become the most viewed breaking news tweet in NBA history, and even he wasn't sure it was real. So why did Dallas do it? The Mavericks were motivated to move Doncic because of his constant conditioning concerns, sources told ESPN. There had been significant frustration within the organization about Doncic's lack of discipline regarding his diet and conditioning, which team sources considered a major factor in his injury issues. Though Doncic was relatively lean by his standards when he reported to camp, his weight ballooned to the high 260s early this season. He sat out 5 games in late November, when the Mavericks listed him with a sprained right wrist, an extended absence to allow Doncic to focus on his conditioning. The conditioning story was not new. Sources told ESPN that Doncic reported to training camp weighing more than 260 pounds. For the second consecutive year, his listed weight is 230 pounds. That is 30 pounds over his listed playing weight. And while Doncic could still dominate at that size, he literally went to the finals carrying extra weight. Dallas saw it as an escalating risk. Doncic had been limited to 22 games that season because of a variety of injuries. He had not played since straining his calf on Christmas Day, but had been targeting a return before the All-Star break. Then there was the money. In 2022, Doncic had signed a 5-year, $215 million maximum contract with the Mavericks, including a player option for 2026 to 27. Doncic was in line to receive a 5-year, $345 million Supermax contract that summer. But because of the trade, he was no longer eligible for a Supermax deal. The value of the Supermax was estimated at roughly $116 million more than any other team's best possible offer. Mavericks general manager Nico Harrison framed the decision through a defensive lens. "I believe that defense wins championships," Harrison told ESPN's Tim McMahon. "I believe that getting an all-defensive center and an all-NBA player with a defensive mindset gives us a better chance. We're built to win now and in the future." Owner Patrick Dumont used more corporate language. He called the trade a risk allocation decision. Meanwhile, Dumont told the Dallas Morning News, "If you look at the greats in the league, the people you and I grew up with, Jordan, Bird, Kobe, Shaq, they worked really hard every day with a singular focus to win." The implication hung in the air like a thundercloud. Luka Doncic did not meet their standard of commitment. But behind the scenes, the picture was murkier. The Mavericks stated that they did not open trade discussions for Doncic with other teams, which drew significant criticism due to the belief that the Mavericks could have started a bidding war and received more value from the trade. Harrison worried that if Doncic knew he was on the trading block, He could dictate where he's going to go by threatening to trigger his 2026 opt-out clause. That decision to trade one of the best young players alive without even shopping him around the league became the single most damning detail. Having earlier successfully convinced Dumont to sideline Cuban from constant interference in basketball operations, Harrison had framed the Doncic trade as a business decision, presenting what he wanted his boss to know, not necessarily everything that Dumont needed to know, especially as an NBA newcomer. Mark Cuban later stated that he regretted selling the team to the Adelson and Dumont families, and has alluded to his strong disagreement with the trade. The trade package Dallas received? The Lakers sent Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris to Los Angeles. Dallas got Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the Lakers' 2029 first-round pick. The Jazz received Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round picks, with Davis waiving his $6 million bonus for being traded. Moving Doncic's current salary got the Mavericks out of the luxury tax. For a generational talent, Dallas got a 31-year-old big man with a devastating injury history, a solid but unremarkable role player, and one distant first-round pick. Minutes into his Dallas Mavericks debut, Anthony Davis threw down a thunderous putback dunk and delivered an impromptu proclamation to a fan base in the early stages of the mourning process. "I'm here," Davis shouted after strutting toward the sideline, animatedly pointing to the American Airlines Center court. "I'm here." Then he wasn't, after dominating the first half that afternoon, when the most prominent story was the large pre-game protest by angry fans outside the arena. Davis went down with an adductor strain midway through the third quarter. That injury sidelined the 10-time All-Star for 6 weeks and set the tone for his brief stint with the Mavs. That debut encapsulated everything: the hope, the hype, and the inevitable collapse. Davis played in 29 regular season games, in which Dallas had a record of 16-13. He missed 54 of a possible 83 regular season games. Irving and Davis played 25 minutes together for the Mavericks. 25 minutes. The franchise had traded its face for a star duo that shared the court, for less time than it takes to watch one half of one game, because Kyrie Irving tore his ACL last March and was out for the season. So the vision Nico Harrison had of a defensive powerhouse anchored by Davis alongside Irving never materialized. The public reaction was volcanic. Emmanuel Acho, a Dallas native, called it one of the biggest mistakes in the history of sports, an organizational malpractice. Fans of the Dallas Mavericks will never forgive Nico Harrison for trading Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. Harrison was fired by the Mavericks on November 11, 2025, which many commentators attributed to the negative backlash to the trade and the team's sluggish start to the 2025-26 season. At the time of Harrison's firing, the Mavericks' record was 3-8, with the team second to last place in the Western Conference standings. Mavericks owner Patrick Dumont fired Harrison in November and penned a public apology to their fans for greenlighting Doncic's trade. While Dallas was crumbling, Doncic was averaging 37.1 points, 9.4 rebounds, and 9.1 assists per game for the Lakers, having led the team to an 8-3 record and 4th place in the West. The contrast was like staring into a mirror that only reflected your worst decisions. On April 9, 2025, Doncic returned to American Airlines Center for the first time as a visiting player. The Mavericks placed t-shirts on every seat reading "Hvala za vis," Slovenian for "thank you for everything." When the tribute video played, Doncic sat alone on the visitors' bench, head down, wiping away tears. A city mourning the loss of a player who never asked to leave. Davis played just 29 games for Dallas before being shipped to the Washington Wizards in February 2026. For Chris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, Marvin Bagley III, and modest draft capital, the centerpiece of the Luka return was gone in barely 1 calendar year. The Mavericks' final return for Doncic: Christie, a handful of role players, 3 underwhelming first-round picks, and 3 second-rounders. The franchise is now 24-53 and building around rookie Cooper Flagg, whom they selected with the number 1 pick after improbably winning the draft lottery. Flagg's presence and production: he's on pace to join Doncic, Michael Jordan, and Larry Bird as the only rookies to average at least 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists per game since the 1976 ABA-NBA merger. Provide hope and some patience, but the hole Nico Harrison dug is generational. Meanwhile, Luka Doncic's former teammate Quentin Grimes pushed back on the conditioning narrative that Dallas used to justify the trade. Grimes dismissed the team's concerns about Doncic's conditioning and work habits, saying his former teammate was always in the gym whenever he would show up for his late-night shooting sessions or practice day weightlifting. Whatever they're saying, if he's 270 and he gets to the finals, let him be 270 then. It's crazy, Grimes said. Doncic is now one of the most dominant players in the league, averaging a league-best 33.5 points per game this season with the Lakers. He was in the middle of an MVP-caliber march with 37.5 points, 8.0 rebounds, and 7.4 assists per game during a 15-2 stretch. All this before the hamstring injury against Oklahoma City derailed everything. ESPN reported that Luka Doncic traveled to Spain to undergo what was described as an injection procedure, aimed at accelerating his recovery from a grade 2 hamstring strain. He appeared in 64 regular season games, finishing one game short of becoming eligible for end-of-season awards, including All-NBA teams and the MVP award. However, he intends to apply for an extraordinary circumstances challenge to the 65-game rule. The Lakers now face a playoff run without their best player, at least for the opening rounds. If LeBron James can drag his team out of the first round without Luka and Reeves, he might be the GOAT. It is a grim scenario for Los Angeles. But even then, if the Lakers somehow make it to Luka's return, they could pull a rabbit out of a hat. As for Anthony Davis, he is currently with the Washington Wizards and in injury recovery mode. The All-Star big man joined Washington via trade from Dallas, who also sent D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum, and Jaden Hardy to the Wizards. He has not appeared in any games for the Wizards due to ligament damage in his left hand, preventing him from getting onto the court. Davis is now preparing for a fresh start with the Washington Wizards, expected to return next season alongside Trae Young. His appearance on the Draymond Green Show this week brought the entire story back into focus. Not because there's any new trade to discuss, but because of what Davis said about how it all made him feel. He explained that he understood the trade from the business side of it, but felt he deserved more respect from the Lakers in being informed that he would be traded. The call he got was 10 minutes before the trade was announced, so the Lakers already knew. At some point, there had to be conversations about trading him for Luka, and it never got to him. That, Davis said, was the part that haunted him. Davis added that he went through a wide range of emotions in the immediate aftermath of the deal, and even after he came to understand why the trade was made, he still didn't appreciate the way he was shipped out of Los Angeles. And here's the final verdict on this whole saga. It is considered one of the most unexpected and lopsided trades in NBA history. Even though the Mavericks still received an All-NBA player, as Doncic is perceived as a generational player and is almost 6 years younger than Davis. Harrison is no longer employed by the Mavericks, but he's still the biggest loser from this trade, because it further cements the initial Luka Doncic deal as one of the worst in NBA history. Less than a year after Doncic led the Mavericks to the finals for the first time since 2011, Harrison shipped him out of town for Davis, who ended up playing 29 out of a possible 83 games. A tremendous irony given that one of the reasons Harrison gave up Doncic was over concerns about his health and durability. Davis himself summed it up best. From the business standpoint, I can't be mad. Luka is Luka. Luka is Luka. With LeBron James likely retiring in the near future, the Lakers have their cornerstone player for the foreseeable future in Doncic. The Mavericks have Cooper Flagg, a handful of mediocre picks, and a memory of the night they traded away the best player they had since Dirk Nowitzki. Anthony Davis never got to play with Luka Doncic. He dreamed about it. He mentioned it to his agent casually, as a fantasy. And when Rich Paul called him that night to say he was going to Dallas, Davis's first instinct, the thing that came out before logic, before self-preservation, before anything else, was to guess exactly what happened. Because deep down, he already knew. There was only one player on that roster worth the trade. The cruelest part. He was right.